What's up, folks? Welcome to another episode of Smoke World. I'm your host, Stone. So go grab that stick, go grab a glass, whatever you're drinking. Let's sit back and have a conversation. You can follow me on Instagram at SmokeWorld50 and send those emails, which I tell you this every time, folks, to SmokeWorld50@gmail.com. I am pleased to have a sister of the leaf. Her name is Ernestine Epps, and she has a very, very inspirational story. So I was happy to have her come down to sit with me to discuss, tell her story, and she will be able to share that with you guys, and maybe you will find it as inspirational as I have. Ernestine, what's up?
Whoop, whoop. I'm good. How are you doing, Kev?
Oh, man, lovely. Thank you for being
That's
here.
awesome. Thank you for having me. This is great. Thank you.
Yes. So, again, Sister Leaf, I don't think you have been smoking for that long. How long have you been smoking?
I have not. A couple years, but not a whole lot. Originally more now. So I like a light cigar. I don't like to taste it in the morning is what my criteria is.
Okay.
So I like a Perdomo, light, Connecticut. So anything that's pretty light, not a heavy, dark leaf. Like I said, nothing I can taste in the morning or I can smell in my hair in the morning. So I'm just like that.
Okay, cool. That's what's up. Appreciate you coming through. Now, where you from?
I am from Philly originally.
Whoa.
That's right. Philly in the house. That's right.
What you know about Philly?
That's right. Come on, man.
Right
Come
now,
on.
hey, folks, and right now, she's interrupting the game. The Eagles are on
I
now,
know,
and
I
I'm down
know,
here
I know,
dropping
I
a
know.
podcast for your listening pleasure.
I know.
So we won't hold that against you too much, but just want you to know that. But
I
okay,
know.
you're a
I
Philly
feel
girl.
a little bad. I do feel
I don't
a little
really
bad.
think you
I
do. I just
Maybe
really
a
don't.
tiny bit.
Yeah, I just don't sense
I
that
don't
you're
know.
feeling bad, because if you really was a true Philly Eagles fan, you'd have been a little bit more conscious about the time.
I know.
You
I
on
apologize.
CP
I am
time.
straight up on CP time, Caribbean people time though. So we be glad that this this interview happened at all. So my
wow.
Jamaican folks, we know. I'm Jamaican and American, so our Jamaican people know
Jamaican.
Jamaican.
So you
I
respect
am
the line, Jamaican.
Wagwan. Yeah. So,
Yes, man. So you're
yeah,
Philly
yeah,
girl, so you
yeah.
grew up in Philly.
I did.
Now, the reason I have you here, because number one, you're Sister of the Leaf. You're excellent. Your personality, I love your personality.
Thanks.
Great spirit. But I really want folks to really hear your story, because very, very inspirational. You grew up in the foster care system.
I did. I grew up in a foster care system in Philadelphia. I went in at approximately 6 months old and stayed in foster care until I emancipated at 16. So in between that time, I lived in about 20 foster homes. Most of them were very abusive until the very last one. And then I emancipated at 16 with $50 and a sheet of numbers. So that's how I came out of foster care, and then I had an apartment in the city and worked 3 jobs and went to high school.
At 16?
At 16.
Really?
Yeah,
now,
I
can
did.
you kind of give us a little bit of insight on at 16 years old, you're on your own with an apartment? How did that, who signed, was you able to sign the lease, or who rented this place out to you? I got a lot of questions.
Yeah, I do. So at the time, Philadelphia had a program that if you could prove as a foster child that you could take care of yourself, they would let you emancipate. And part of the emancipation process meant that they would link you with some housing. So for 6 months of that year, they promised to the landlord that if you defaulted on your lease, that they would pay the lease for you. And so that's why landlords actually allow me to sign a lease.
At 16?
So, at 16. So that was the program the city had. For 6 months, they would.
I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Okay, go
but
ahead.
do you know if that's still in place now?
No,
that a
it's-
child, basically, because you're still a child. You asked me. You're 16 years old.
Yeah,
And
they do let 16-year-olds still emancipate, but they do it a lot differently than what they did it. You're talking about more than 25 years ago.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry. Proceed. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, so that's what they did, and for 6 months, I paid my rent on time. I did everything I was supposed to do. So after that, the city was like, "Thank you very much." I didn't really have any social worker after I signed the lease, honestly. So I was working 3 jobs and going to high school and trying to figure out life and dying. Really, I'm just burning out, honestly.
So 3 jobs in high school. What jobs were you maintaining or working at 16 years old?
So I had 2 jobs with the health department. One was as a youth counselor, so for Crisis Network, so people could call the crisis hotline if they hadn't, like they were having some suicidal thoughts or
At
issues.
16?
At 16, it's a peer. It's a peer
Okay.
program. And then the other one was a sex education. I handed out condoms on the streets of Philadelphia. That was during the times of the HIV and AIDS epidemic in Philadelphia. And so they had peer young people going out and handing out condoms and educating young people about HIV and other STDs and teen pregnancy. So that was one of my jobs. And then my third job was a hookup. I ended up getting a bartending job.
Okay. Then, I got to stop. Are we still in the same decade right now?
Yeah.
16 years old.
I was.
Okay, you're giving out condoms.
Yeah.
You're dealing with mental health.
I am.
And now you're working at a bar at 16.
I am. It was a
Is this
hookup.
not the 1800s? Or
It is.
what year were we talking about here?
We're talking about like 1992.
I didn't know the city. I mean,
they
folks, I'm being
did.
educated
was-
here because this
No,
is
it was illegal.
amazing
It was
that-
really illegal.
Okay, the
It was-
bartending job was illegal.
It was an illegal job.
Okay, but
But it was a hookup. And
what were you doing at the bar? You say bartending?
I was bartending. I was making
16
drinks.
years
I
old?
was. I was.
Okay.
I was a bartender at a bar in the neighborhood down off of Walnut Street, 12th and Walnut, for a guy who owned a bar at 11th and Sampson called, right off the top of my head, I can't remember, but I will remember by the end of the conversation. It's called Stars. And then he hooked me up with a bartending job at a female bar he was opening up a block away at 12th and Sampson. And so, so I was getting off work 3 o'clock in the morning and barely making it to high school my 12th grade year.
Okay,
And so,
if I may ask, how many days out of the week did you work at this bar and getting off at 3 o'clock in the morning?
4 days a week.
During the week?
I did.
Not a
I did.
weekend
I
job.
do. One of the days was the weekend, and it was 3 days during a week.
And you're getting off work at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you're supposedly to be productive in high school.
Well, I
Supposedly.
had more disposable income, so I could take a cab to school, and I got to school at about noon. Most
Okay,
days.
and school started at what time?
7.
And you got there at noon.
I did.
Okay, this is a pattern that you've been doing for some time short
I've
of
been
late.
on
Is
CB
you gonna
time
blame
my
that
whole
on
life.
Jamaican?
Yeah.
So it's a pattern.
No.
folks.
Yeah, no. And so by the time the Marine Corps recruiter, I saw the Marine Corps recruiter in my high school, I literally was exhausted. And I asked him, like, I heard that I can work one job and still get food and still get payment and someplace to live. And he was like, yep. And I was like, okay, sign me up. And it's funny because in a lot of ways, that was the smartest decision that I could make, because then, like, I was failing a lot of classes in high school because I was showing up at 12.
Yeah,
right?
I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Getting
yeah,
out of
pretty
work at
much.
3 o'clock.
Yeah,
So it's
pretty
quite-
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Coordination was a little tricky.
it was awful. It was awful. So he went and bargained with a lot of my teachers. Listen, we're going to take her right out of high school if you would just let her do some extra credit or let her do some stuff. And so the Marine Corps was invested in me very early. They started like taking me to school, and my recruiter he really wanted that number, man. He was
How old
pretty
were
good.
you? 18 or
I was
17?
18
Okay,
at that
you were
time.
18. Okay.
Yeah, so for a couple years, I did that schedule that we talked about, and then that's why by the time I saw him, I was pretty tired. I was running track and field too, so
May I ask what high school?
I was at Overbrook High School in
Overbrook.
Philadelphia.
Okay.
So yeah, so we were in a Mighty Brook and we were runners there. So I ran every track and field season, and I remember like the last year. The coach came to me and was like, listen, we will have to forfeit the cross country championship meet if we don't have another girl to run. And I had to work, but I literally like went into his car, changed into a uniform, ran the meet. We won the championship. I had to get back in his car, change into my work clothes, and get to work. And I remember that was just crazy. It was just a really crazy time, So
Interesting. Okay, so now you joined the Marine Corps.
I did.
The United States Marine Corps.
I did.
Folks, for those who do not know, the Marine Corps is, they take pride in what they do. Not to say that any other branch does not, But the Marine Corps as a female, wasn't that how many? Not that many. Not that many females,
well,
really. I'm not going to,
no.
opposed to the other branches of services.
Yeah, so I joined the Marine Corps obviously because it was the toughest branch, right? And I thought that.
Well, you already living a tough life.
Well,
so
yeah, exactly right. I figured, what else? You know, it's
this
good.
ain't
This is what I thought.
Where my dogs at?
And then I showed up at Paris Island and they showed me that I was like, what was I thinking? Yeah.
Where we at? This will look
I
like
was
the
like,
bar
get
workout.
off my bus and put your feet on my yellow footprints. What is that? So I had a really tough 3 months at Paris Island because I just was like, listen, y'all not going to break me. And so I kind of went into boot camp with the same attitude that I lived in life. Like, you're not going to break me.
Okay.
And but the Marine Corps boot camp is meant to break you because it's meant to build you back up to be who you're supposed to be. And so it took a long time for me to get to that. And so finally, I think it was a week before graduation that finally I relented, like, okay, fine.
A week before graduation.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm assuming that you did graduate.
I did.
Obviously. A week before graduation.
I did.
You're just getting
They
we've only been here for a couple
they
months
were so
now.
tired of me. They were
And 1
just
week
like,
before
listen.
graduation, you know what? I think
I
know
think
what
I
they want me
finally
to
get
do.
this. Yeah, they were just like, listen, we
Wow.
cannot hold up training to smoke you anymore. So in the morning, you get up, you get ready, and you go to the sand pit and you start smoking yourself until we get the rest of the platoon ready to walk out the door.
Special
Like
duties.
but that was then. I mean, now I think they would have kicked me out in boot camp, honestly, because of the way that the service is now built. But back then, they were just like, you're just tough, and they were able to see that. As a matter of fact, one of my female drill instructors said to me, you're going to make a great Marine because you're very tough. And so you go into the Marine Corps where you're one female in a whole company. And so the stuff that you deal with there
I
was
can imagine.
absolutely nothing compared to what I had dealt with on the street. So so I was able to come through the Marine Corps pretty much unscathed. But I was by the time I got done my 4 years, I was over it. I came out of the Marine Corps and I was ready to come out of the Marine Corps. I ran track and field for the Marine Corps, and so that's one of the things I was the most proud of. I think, living the lifestyle I lived when I was in foster care, I wasn't able to kind of fulfill that dream of mine to run because I didn't have the time to train. And so the Marine Corps, I walked onto their Marine Corps track and field team, and then I ran the All Armed Forces track and field team, so I was able to travel the world for 6 months out of almost every year with the Marine Corps and run around the world. And so that was pretty good for me because it let me know, like, listen, I could have done this in college. I could have done this had I had the opportunity to do that. So it was pretty good. And then I had my daughter, and it was time to go out of the Marine Corps.
So you went from the Marine Corps, and did you take a break because you are now in the Army?
I am.
So she can jump from one service to the next. So when did that happen?
So I did. I came out of the Marine Corps and was like, I'm done with the Marine Corps, and came back to Philadelphia. And Philadelphia was still the same as it was when I left, except I had a daughter now. So I had to try to really figure out some stuff. And that's one of the things, growing up in foster care, you don't have a family support system. So when you come back with a child, you really are just coming back with that child. And so you're trying to figure it out. So nothing had changed in my situation at home, except now I had a child. And so I was just like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So,
Right.
So I end up just much like the first time seeing another recruiter and saying to him, and he's a friend of mine today, I was like, listen, go ahead and drop the paperwork. I'm back in, I'm good.
How much time had lapsed from you
6 months.
from 6
6
months from coming out of the Marine Corps? You did 4 years in the Marine Corps. 6 months.
I'm back in the Army.
You signing up for the Army.
Yep, raising my right hand again and saying, I'll solemnly swear to defend, so.
Now, interestingly enough, do you have to do boot camp and all of that?
Not if you were a Marine. So if you're a
Okay.
Marine, you walk right into the Army. As long as you pick the same job.
Okay.
I literally, my first weekend working in the Army Guard, I had my Marine Corps uniform on. They didn't have uniforms for me, so I had my Marine Corps pants and a T-shirt on. Yeah.
They let that happen?
But they gave me some slack, but if they wanted to see me, then that's what it was. They should have gave me a uniform. I was an enlisted soldier at the time. So, yeah.
Okay, so where were you based at?
I was here in Delaware, so I joined the
Okay.
Delaware Guard. So at that time, I joined the Delaware Guard with the idea that it would be 1 week in a month for me. And so I would continue.
I'm gonna interrupt. Okay, so you went back home to Philly, but you end up signing up with the Army National Guard in Delaware.
Yeah, there's a man involved. There's always a
Okay,
man
you left a
involved.
little something out. I was thinking, did I miss something? How did you end up in
There's
Delaware?
always a man involved.
It was
Yeah, so
Philadelphia.
yeah.
I was home, Philadelphia with my
I
daughter.
was home
and
with
I'm
my
in
daughter.
Delaware, like, whoa,
Met
whoa.
Mr. Wonderful, who was from Delaware. So came to Delaware with Mr. Wonderful, and
Okay.
then joined the
Arnold
Delaware
Schwarzenegger.
National Guard. Yeah, he was amazing. Apparently, kind of, only for a little while though. So then joined the Delaware Guard. I was still an enlisted soldier at that time. I was an E4, and so joined the Delaware Guard, and it was 1 week in a month. And then they offered me. My recruiter said to me, they have a full-time federal technician job. You should put in for it. And I did. And so within like 4 weeks of joining the Army Guard, I was a full-time Fed Tech. So
Gotcha.
I did that. I went to nursing school. I had my daughter. I was married. And then I divorced and finished nursing school and then left the Guard full-time and then was just doing it 1 week in a month.
So you became a nurse. You was a nurse.
I was a nurse. Yeah, I was a nurse.
Oh, wow. That's what I'm saying. These are one of the accomplishments. This is why I have you before me today.
Oh, thank you.
So, military, okay, 2 branches, go back to school, become a nurse, RN. So, did you get to do any RN work with the military or no?
No. So I wasn't an RN in the military. So I was
Right.
still an enlisted soldier. I was actually a food service. I was a cook in the
Okay.
military. So I was a nurse over at St. Francis in the ER. I was a nurse at Gander Hill in the prison system. So I was a nurse. And then they offered me to come back because I did finance and acquisitions full-time for the Guard when I was there full-time. So I got every cert I needed to have for that. And so they offered me to come back AGR, which is active Guard, which is the same thing as active duty, as a finance and acquisitions person. And so I took that opportunity and did that. It was nursing part-time. And then they had a warrant officer. I decided to become a warrant officer. So I went the warrant officer route and went to the school. And then I got commissioned a warrant officer.
For those who don't know, what is a warrant officer? What is that?
Yeah, they're a
entail?
technical officer, so they're a specialty officer, so not like your lieutenants. So warrant officers, normally, unless you're a pilot, you have to have at least 6 to 7 years experience in your branch. And so you go to the warrant officer. First, somebody has to say you're a subject matter expert. And then once you get that back, you go to the school, which at that time had about a 60% pass rate. So then once you get done with the school, you get commissioned, appointed W-1, and then by the time you get to CW-2, you get commissioned as a CW-2 warrant officer.
Is that the rank you currently possess?
I am a CW-4.
Oh,
So,
excuse me.
yeah,
Excuse me. Pardon
which is
me.
a big deal in Delaware because I'm the second black female to hold the rank in the state of Delaware. So
Oh, wow.
I'm very
Congratulations on
excited
that.
about
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Wow, that's something. Okay, so
Yeah,
you
I'm
do
excited
all
about
that,
that.
and kind of brings us up to kind of almost where you're at now.
Almost.
Yeah, almost. Okay, well, proceed. Yeah, let me not cut it off because
Oh.
this is getting good.
Oh, no. So
People are listening to
it's
this.
actually
We
it's
would
an
hope.
amazing it's an amazing testament for me of God's grace. I mean, honestly.
Yes.
Because then you know I have this daughter and I grew up in foster care. My mom grew up in foster care and my grandmother grew up in foster care. And so, you know, the statistics are very eye-opening to where my daughter was supposed to go. And so the fact that she went to college, you know, and graduated from University of South Florida and at the military allowed me, what I did was I transferred my GI Bill to her. So we were able
Oh, you
to
can do
buy,
that.
yeah,
okay,
you
folks.
can. Yeah.
Hey, some people debating if you want to be in the military. There's some perks
Right.
to this.
Oh, there's a lot of perks. And so
Okay.
I'll go into the perks in a second. But I was able to transfer my GI Bill to my daughter. And so she was able to go to college. And so we broke the cycle in my family using the military and the benefits that I got from them. So I'm in the military. I'm trudging right along. They're allowing me to go to every school I want to go to and get every certification I need to get. I was able to be a commander. I had a company of 170 soldiers under me.
Oh, wow.
And so, yes, I was able to do a lot of great things. And then I was able to deploy 3 years ago as a branch chief under 18th Airborne. which was awesome. So yeah, so the military, I've got my master's degree. I got that while I was overseas, and I just finished my first semester in my doctorate program.
Oh,
So
congratulations
yeah,
on
so
that.
the military, well, the military's not paying for that. I got to pay cash for that, but they're
Yeah,
paying me so that I can
exactly.
pay
So,
for that. So it's really. I never believed that my career. I never thought that my career would be where it's at right now. So it is really
but yeah,
amazing.
coming from that background, like I said, you had a
Crazy,
lot of adversities
crazy.
before you, but like I said, you overcame those, and
Yeah,
through God's grace, that's what I said. It's an amazing story, folks.
yeah.
So now you're where you're at now, and you actually told me that you're looking to actually start some programs to, I guess, assist those individuals that may be in foster care or going through foster care. Because again, through experience of your own, you saw a lot of flaws,
Yeah.
and you see probably still there to this day.
There is.
So I will let you, elaborate a little bit on some of the visions and things and programs that you may be working on.
So foster care for me, my view of foster care is that foster care is very, very abusive. And so it's a stunt to the growth of kids when they come out of foster care. So the transitional for kids who are in foster care or raised in foster care, when they get ready to come out of foster care, like I said, I got $50 and an informational sheet.
Wow.
And so that's nothing really. I mean, that's a recipe for failure, honestly. So one of the things that I want to do is a community for young ladies who are in foster care that maybe want to explore the military as an option. So the community would be a pre-military community that would concentrate on PT, life skills, resiliency, self-esteem, money management, how to live. And so the idea is to get girls who are 15 and a half to 16 and carry them through the program 18 to 19 years old, where they would either come out of the program and go to college or come out of the program and go to the military. So, when I'm part of my doctorate now is in prevention science. So this is Wilmington University is one of the only schools that offer that doctorate here. And the only reason I'm getting my doctorate is because it will allow me to do the research that hasn't been done yet on
Interesting.
young ladies that are coming out of foster care or generational foster care. Because generational foster care, in my mind, it sets an expectation of a family that foster care is an option. When in a regular family who has never experienced foster care, they would fight like hell to keep their kids out of foster care. Families who generationally have experienced foster care, it's an option. It's a viable option for their kids. And so, we stop this. One of the things that foster care does very badly is they medicate kids. You have a kid who has a behavior problem and you give them a medication at 15 or 16, and that would be a disqualifier for military service. If a child has a kid at 15 or 16, as foster care plays out, it would be a disqualifier for military service because who would they leave their kid with, right?
Oh,
So
interesting.
if you were a 16-year-old or 17-year-old with a family and you signed up for military service, you could leave your kid with your family through boot camp. You would have to sign guardianship.
Gotcha.
But as a child who's in foster care, who would you leave your kid
Right.
with? So the idea of my program would be to kind of intercept and prevent all of those things from happening so someone could come out of foster care and still be able to do military service if that's what they choose to do. And since military service is the strictest timeline, the strictest criteria, then of course they would be able to do college instead of military service if that's what they wanted to do.
Wow. Okay.
So that's what I've been working on for the last 6 years. And so now I'm just trying to get the education and the studies behind it. So the nonprofit will start up this year so we can start collecting money, but the research will be done over the course of my program.
And sometime in the future, folks, as you mentioned that you started a nonprofit, so if you're interested in assisting, we'll bring you back on to be able to disseminate that information to the listeners if you're interested in helping with this cause. Sounds good.
Thank you. Yeah, so I did want to just thank you very much for having me on. I do want to just say one other plug, if you don't mind. I don't want to make this
Absolutely.
super long. But one of the things I hear a lot in parents, especially in the African-American community, is that it's military or college. That's been, I think, one of the adages we've grown up with as
True.
a community. And so in this job, I have a new job as of about a year and a half ago, and it's the Office of Strength Manager for the Delaware Guard. And so one of the things that I manage are all the officer careers in Delaware, to include ROTC, to include Officer Candidate School. As a part of that, I have 13 scholarships that I have every year. Prior to me taking this job, those scholarships went pretty much unexecuted. And so trying to get the word out to say, listen, it is not military or college. A lot of our, especially in the African American community, we tell our kids to go to college, but we don't have a plan for how they're going to pay for it or how they're going to do it. And so what the National Guard offers is a 1 week in a month solution. You work for 1 week in a month, pays 100% of tuition for all of the schools in Delaware. So DSU, Wilmington U, University of Delaware. And then if you got my scholarship, it gives you additionally a $10,000 a year room and board stipend paid to the student, $420 a month in a cadet stipend, $1,500 a year in a book stipend, and they get paid as the E5 sergeant and are non-deployable during their 4 years of college. They go ROTC, they come out of that, they take a commission, so now they're a commissioned officer, and they owe 2 to 4 years after that. So it's a very, very, very good deal. Remember, the 2 to 4 years is still 1 week in a month under the National Guard. So all of these programs that I'm getting a chance to learn about, I've just been trying to find different avenues to get the information out. Like I have a new banner over at Christiana Mall, a sky banner that talks about some of the bonuses and some of the scholarships that I have. But it's always been pretty surprising to me that this information hasn't made it out there to the communities that need it the most.
Right, and that's now interesting you say that, because I know back in the days, came to military services, there were always like a corner store set up where you can go and sign up to become, a part of the military. Those days seem like they're over. I don't see that as much. So what would be the best way if one, you're interested in becoming a military personnel? What would be the best way for them to sign up? How would they actually kind of reach? I guess we got Google and internet.
Right. No. We actually do have a couple of recruiting offices out in the community. People's Plaza, there's a recruiting community there. There's also one in Wilmington, not Wilmington proper, but like Newport Gap Road.
Right.
There's one in Dover right across from DSU.
Okay.
So there are some offices, but I don't mind. I'll give my my work cell phone number.
Yeah, because like I said, because if we have a
Readers
worldwide audience, and they be like, I don't live in that state, so how would one who lives abroad
in another state,
right, say, hey,
yep.
What do I need to do? Would it go to Google and say, look, recruitment?
That would
branch?
That's going to be the best way to do it. Honestly, if you live outside the state of Delaware, you're going to pick your state and you're going to say Army National Guard for that state, and then it will automatically bring you to a recruiting office close to you. If you're interested in the college benefits, one of the things with these scholarships is they can cross state lines, where the benefit of being part of the Delaware Guard is that we have 100% tuition assistance in Delaware. But let's say you're a student that goes to a school in Pennsylvania, then that's when you want to talk to me about getting a scholarship, because I can pay a scholarship to any ROTC program worldwide.
Oh, okay. Right.
And all states have the same amount of scholarships. Delaware is just awesome because we're a small state with the same amount of scholarships as a state like Pennsylvania or Texas. So that's how we make out well with that. But it's what I always say is, I've had an incredible year, between the Eagles making me their hometown hero and Newcastle County.
Yes.
And so what I always say with everybody is we all have these stories. And so there's a lot of them, but they're only going to be powerful if you share them, and if you share how you came through it, so people who are there get a chance to figure out how to get out of that. There is a lot of kids out there. I do mentorship now in the city, and there's a lot of kids that just we arrive and we do better, and then we leave, and we don't make it back. And so it's easy to make it back a little bit, even if you just go back to the house that you lived in, knocked on the door and leave a case of water, a case of something. Like, it doesn't take a large amount of effort, but it does take some. So.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Beautiful. Wow. I just want to thank you for, taking this opportunity to sit down and share your story. Again, congratulations on, you're moving forward with your doctrine and all. All right, folks. She's the Sister of the Leaf. sitting right here in Delaware, and won't go into the other stuff and all this other good stuff. But is there anything else that we didn't discuss that you wanted to share?
No, I appreciate you for having me on here. Really, I do. So
Well, like I said, now I
look
want to
out
share your
for my
story.
project, and hopefully you'll
Definitely
get
be
a
a
chance
future
to,
guest. You definitely would.
yeah.
We'd love to have you back. Talk about what you got going on. So anytime you're ready, once you get your project together, feel free. We'll definitely be having you on Smoke World.
Thank you.
Well, look, folks, there you have it. Ernestine Epps, thank you for your service. Again, another episode in the books, folks. Again, follow me on Instagram at SmokeWorld50. Send those emails to smokeworld50@gmail.com. And guess what, folks? We're upon the holiday season, so I want to say Merry Christmas to everybody. Be safe, my family. I appreciate you guys supporting me. Take care, and we shall see you on the other side. Peace.
Merry Christmas.